Um, I'm going to ask you, first of all, I've started recording.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, how did the collaboration with Kirk Franklin and Tori Kelly, how did that happen?
Yeah. So a number of years ago, we were actually at the Dove Awards here in Nashville. And literally probably 4 or 5 years ago, Joel and I were just kind of coming up. And Kirk, I saw him like in the back halls. And he goes, "King Country." And I said, "Yeah, man, yeah." He goes, "Put me on the collab list." And I was like, "Oh, am I meant to have one of those? Because I'll put you on it. I just didn't know I was meant to have one of those lists." And we didn't actually get to do anything for really a number of years. And then we saw him. He did a performance at the Grammys this year.
Yes.
And we saw him out there. And it was kind of like, hey, remember that conversation that we had all those years ago? What if we would actually do something this year? And we had this song we've been working on for a couple of years called Together. And we thought, you know what, we'll just send this over to him, see what he thinks. And he literally went and wrote this whole bridge, this whole thing. And so that's kind of how Kirk came about. And then Joel, my brother, and his wife Mariah are very good friends with Tori and her husband. And they came to a show of ours in California, heard this song. We were playing it live before we released it. And obviously during quarantine, as artists, we're all looking for something to do, kind of. And just sent it over to her and said, "Hey, would you lend your voice on this project?" And she said, "I'd absolutely love it." And so that was kind of how it all came about.
I absolutely love the song. I think it's amazing. Just the video itself is fantastic. Just everything about it. And I wanted to ask, how does the song reflect the times that we're in?
Well, I think that, especially here in America, but I think it's actually become the world. We're divided people. If it seems like these days, if I kind of agree with you with something, then you're my enemy. And the pandemic has kind of made it to where it's like leveled the playing field. Like everybody's afraid of getting sick. Everybody's at home, rich or poor. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what race. It's all kind of equal as far as what we're going through, not just as a state, not just as a country, as a world. And so our hope is that this song actually is, my hope is that this is a song that encourages people coming out of this pandemic for us not to focus on the things that divide us and the things that separate us, but get back to, man, I got red blood running through my veins. And you and I have walked through something very, very difficult. What if we were to walk hand in hand in this thing together and get over the things that we just disagree about and kind of agree to disagree and actually say, just because we may have differences doesn't mean I can't love you. And that's I think our hope for Together.
Now, how have you guys been coping with the lockdown, and what's your personal experience with this?
Well, I think it's actually different for everybody. Here in the States, obviously originally born in Australia, but here in the States, we live here, and all of my immediate family's here. And obviously, my wife and kids are here. We live in the country. We're outside most of the days. Our circumstances are very different than the family of three living in New York City in an 800 square foot flat, and the parks are closed. I think everybody's circumstances through this is just different. And so for us, it's been actually very fulfilling to be home, to be with my family. We always feel when we're touring anyway, this pressure of, I'm going to leave Wednesday night and I'm going to get back Monday morning. So when Dad's here, we got to pack it in, we got to really connect. We got to whatever. Well, we haven't had that pressure, and that pressure it's not always good for a family to be like, okay, Dad's here. All right, what are we going to do? Okay, let's go do this. Let's go do that. Or I come home and I'm exhausted. I'm just trying to rest up. What's been wonderful is when I have had like a weekend, like I can do a Friday night pizza night if we want to, versus a Tuesday night situation before I get ready to go out of town. So the weekends have been something we've been looking forward to. I've never had that. I've always just been gone on the weekends doing shows. And so it's been so many good dinners together around the table. There's been so many good things, family moments that I'm grateful for. I don't know when I'll ever do a show again in my life, but as of right now, we've been able to make something that's been kind of lemons. We've been able to turn it into lemonade.
Okay, what spiritual experience have you taken from this lockdown as well?
The thing that I think it's two things. There's a scripture that Paul says, again, count it all joy or is it in James? Okay. But count it all joy when you experience trials of many kinds. And I think it's been pretty easy for us to practice faith under prior circumstances. We live, but you and I live in countries where we're free to worship, we're free to go to church, we're free to be a Christian, we're free to follow Jesus. In a roundabout way, it's been pretty cushy. And then we had this pandemic come about, and it's almost been a little bit like, okay, now I've actually got to practice faith. Now I've actually got to practice the things that I've been learning about under really good conditions. The conditions have changed. People's finances have been ruined. What does it mean to actually truly believe that God takes care of the birds in the sky? Does he love me enough to take care of me? And to actually practice that. I think that's what we've been walking through. And I think the other thing is certainly in Western society, 3 months ago, if somebody was to come up to me and I would say, hey, how you doing? And they go, oh, I'm really busy. We would go, oh, good for you. You kind of celebrate it. Like, good for you, man. That's great. Well, I think that busyness is wrong. I think busyness a lot of time actually leads to a lot of sinful things. But yet we've kind of had this condition of actually celebrating being hectic, running from one thing to another, not being present at this because I know I've got to do something else at 2:30. And this has kind of forced us to actually like sink in and breathe and enjoy what is before us. And I think that's going to breed a lot of good for a lot of people. I know it has for me.
Recently I saw that the Australian Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, prayed for the country. What do you think that did for Australia?
Well, Australia is a very interesting place. I don't know what it's like as far as statistics in the UK, but in Australia, we've got about 5% people go to church, right? We're post-Christian, and we're a country that is successful, has a very strong middle class. We don't have a lot of needs, and a lot of times when you don't have a lot of needs, you don't see the need for Jesus. And so we've really gotten to be a very, very secular society. Obviously, I've been rooting for Scott, and just because somebody's a Christian doesn't necessarily make them a good prime minister or vice versa. But I do think that it's always a wonderful thing when you get to demonstrate what it means and looks like to follow Jesus. And I think that the book of the Bible has the instruction book on how to live a fulfilled life. So when I see a man leading a government saying, hey, I'm going to recognize God, I'm going to recognize Jesus because of what he's done in my personal life. And this is something that I would do with my family. So I'm going to pray for us. I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it was. I think it was absolutely encouraging to see that. Now I'm going to change it up just a little bit. What was the Grammys like and winning that award?
Yeah, man. It's funny that you asked this because we were talking about this a couple days ago, actually. Somebody was asking about it. And the Grammys was very, very strange because that morning, Kobe Bryant died. And this Grammys is in the Staples Center, which is where the Lakers play. And so the awards that we were up for, they're in the pre-telecast, and then you do the pre-telecast, and then you kind of go get lunch or dinner, and then you go to the main event. And in that little area between the Staples Center and the pre-awards, everybody started congregating and kind of had this like pseudo memorial for Kobe Bryant. And then we had just won these awards, which were, we had never actually gone to the Grammys and won before. We've won some Grammys before, but we weren't in attendance. So this was the first time we actually got up and like gave a speech. And at the end of the day, you don't get into radio because you're looking to win an award. You don't get into music because you're looking to win an award. You get into these things because you believe in the power of communication. You believe in the power of music. And, I've often said that, music has the ability to bypass the head and go directly to the heart. And an award like the Grammys, it represents that. It represents people, that connectivity. It represents it. The Grammy, we have them in the house, and the kids have taken them apart up in their room. So the actual award doesn't really seemingly mean that much. But what I always look at it as is the award represents people that have connected to music, and hopefully, and you know, I like to believe that it's messed with their souls in a good way, and that's something I'm very thankful for.
Okay, one of my favorite tracks is Joy. I love that track. I just get up when I'm playing that on the radio. I get up and I'm dancing to it. Yeah. Now, that's got a bit of an African kind of feel to it. How did that come about?
Well, so I grew up playing drums, and I honestly never played in bands or anything. I was this like deprived child who would just go down into the basement and play drums and then leave. It was very, very odd, very, very strange. But I've always kind of enjoyed that. You know, it just makes you want to dance, right? It just makes you feel, and you know, in a roundabout way, in Christian music, we're not quite sure of dancing. You know what I mean? We hold that a little bit like, but I think.
But yet David danced.
Huh? Yeah, David danced. It doesn't make any sense. So I always, so when we were working on the track, I started going, and I just was like, guys, it feels so good. And the other thing is it feels like joy. Yeah. Joy. My thing is when you think about joy, obviously we scripturally look at all the fruits of joy and all this other stuff. But if you want to see the epitome of joy, look at a child. Well, what does a child do? They can't help but control their emotions and the way they move. When they're really excited, what are they? They're jumping, they're flapping, they're dancing. If they hear a song that they like, they dance. So anyway, our hope is that, you know, with that track, that we can talk about some real things. And I think we've lost the art of joy a lot of times. But at the same time, talk about some real things, but let's have fun doing it. And, you know, we usually finish our shows with joy. And it literally is my favorite. I look forward to it every night because I want to dance and I get to do that on stage.
Just before the pandemic, did you have any plans to come over to the UK and do some touring?
Yeah, well, we've tried to, the way that we kind of work with international trips is we always try to go kind of every 2 years. It's kind of the balance back and forth. And so it was almost exactly 2 years ago that we had Big Church Day Out, and we did some other things in Germany, and we went to Holland. We did a show in Iceland. We did some other things. But we haven't been able to make that all, you know, work out this year. And you know, it's very interesting because my brother Joel said it the other day, when we actually get the chance to do shows again, it's actually going to mean something this time around. Yeah. You know, in a roundabout way, we've gotten spoiled by going and doing a lot of different events and having a lot of different people come in and out and do shows. But we're particularly looking forward to being able to come and so, you know, I can't say this publicly on an American radio station, but the Americans, the shows are pretty tame. You know, they're all a little bit too proper. It's almost like they're thinking of themselves as the queen in America, where in the UK and in Europe, you guys just have a lot more fun at shows. And obviously it means a lot more because, you know, we'll only go over there and tour every couple of years. And so it means something. And so some of our favorite shows in the world are international shows.
Well, we look forward to seeing you guys come over again. Luke, thank you for joining me this afternoon. I really appreciate the time that you've given during this time. Thank you so much.
Premier Gospel.